What is up, YouTube? So, this is going to be my first video ever. If we have not met yet, my name is Victor Asueta. And right now, I am a homeless bodybuilder. So, with that in mind, you're probably asking yourself, what the fuck? How did that happen? Why are you making a YouTube channel, not trying to get yourself out of your situation? We'll get to that later. The reason why I actually decided to make this YouTube channel was to document basically my life and how I've been dealing with kind of the situation I'm in, so that way you guys can learn from it and don't make the same mistakes that I do. Two, to help hold myself accountable to actually like getting myself out of the gutter and making a name for myself. For me recently, I've kind of learned that I haven't really been 100% honest with myself or the people around me. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it's that you can't really lie on the internet. If you lie or say some shit, like, people will find that out and they'll eat you alive. So I decided to make a YouTube channel just to kind of hold me more accountable to that and just being completely honest and like authentic as I can possibly be. Something else as well is, for me, I've always learned something, whether it's, a new skill, a new mindset, how to get ahead in life, or, have a good laugh from YouTube and YouTube videos in general. And more recently, especially after kind of like opening up to more people, I've realized how my life experiences have been a little bit different than the average person. And maybe I should start sharing those things so that way I can contribute a little bit more to this world rather than just my time and energy. Something else as well is, in terms of bodybuilding, because that's what I'm initially here for, I've been bodybuilding since I was about 18 years old. And more recently, I'm starting to see like young kids that have started young with YouTube and like blew up and things like that. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not solely here to try to blow up on YouTube and make a career out of it. But that is part of it, if I'm being completely honest. I kick myself literally every day whenever I see guys like Sam Solik or Tristan Lee or even Christian Guzman, because I used to watch him back in the day. And these guys, didn't really give a fuck. They were like, you know what? Let me start young. Let me just start making content. Don't worry about how good it looks or how it's edited and shit like that, which are like, with me being the person that I am, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I just kept giving myself reasons to not start the channel sooner. I kept thinking like, oh, I need to go, I fucking hate recording and I don't like being on camera, so let me wait until my physique looks a little bit better and then I'll start recording or taking pictures. Or, oh, like, I'm not very good at filming, so let me just like wait until I have enough money to pay for someone to film shit. Or, oh, I don't have enough time for editing, so let me just wait until I have enough money to find someone to pay to edit all my shit. And honestly, I'm just kind of over it. I'm at the point in my life where it's like, you know what? You've gone through a lot of really cool, really dumb, and really like crazy shit. The older you get, the more you're going to forget, what exactly happened in the first place. So, I figured if I start video logging or vlogging everything that I do now, then it'll be fresh in my mind. Things will be a little bit more real and authentic. I won't over exaggerate or anything like that. And hopefully you guys will be able to, like I said, learn something or take something away from it. So, this first video is kind of meant to outline what exactly my channel is going to be about and stuff, but it's also meant to be as like a recap for what's happened to me, for my friends and family and, close acquaintances. So I guess let me start with, I guess, preparing for my bodybuilding show last year in 2022. So I'm someone who really talks a lot, so I'm really going to try not to make this super long-winded. And there might be a few missing details, but if later in my videos you guys want all the full details and don't mind longer videos, then I'll go ahead and make it that way. But long story short, basically I was a personal trainer over at Crunch Fitness from about October 2022 to, or I'm sorry, yeah, my bodybuilding show was last year, 2023. So I was a personal trainer over at Crunch Fitness in West Pembroke Pines from October 2022 to about April, I think it was April or May 2023. And I say that because, I've had a career in fitness for quite a long time, since I was about 18, 19 years old. And at this time, I was honestly at the point where I'm back in the gym. I'm working out regularly again. I'm on cycle. I'm like taking my bodybuilding super seriously. And I decided to do a show on June 3rd called the Miami Muscle Fit Expo. And, at this time, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, like I want to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to live that bodybuilding lifestyle. So let me just keep my head down, grind it out on the weights, do my cardio, eat my meals, and just train my clients and make money, right? Well, everything was pretty good for the most part. However, there's another trainer in that facility. Let's just call him K. And he's an okay kid. For me, he's just a little bit too silly. And anyways, he introduced me to this one client who we'll call Jay. Okay. So his client Jay, or K's client Jay, is basically trying to get shredded, and he's had steroids before, and I just happen to be the plug. So K introduces me to Jay. He's like, "Hey, this is my client. He's interested in getting some juice. He doesn't know what cycle he should do. So can you point him in the right direction and tell him where to get it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I got it, no problem." So I meet Jay. I'm like, "Hey, listen, dude, you should run X, Y, and Z. Do every other day injections. You'll take this just to keep your level steady. You can buy the pins here. I'll get you the gear, yada, yada, yada. Here's what you take. Here's how much it's going to cost, all that stuff." And this kind of starts our relationship as like a soon-to-be coach and client, and then eventually soon to be like business owner and assistant, right? Quote unquote. So, after I get Jay his stuff, he starts wanting to train with me, right? And at this time, we're doing it through Crunch because, we don't want to break any rules or anything. And Jay and I start working. And, I'm more of a bodybuilder, so I train him more like a bodybuilding client, whereas Kay is more of like an athletic trainer. So he trains people more like athletes. So very different training styles. And Jay just happened to like mine a little bit more just because it fit kind of what he's used to and what exactly he's trying to go for. He wants big shoulders, big arms. He wants to get girls. So he wants just to have the nice, like, aesthetic physique. And at this time, he's kind of like, a little bit heavier set. So he's trying to just get shredded as possible and just kind of maintain as much size as he can. So over the course of the next few months, next few months, let's say 1 or 2, I guess a few weeks then, I started getting to the point where I'm training him regularly 3 times a week. We start hanging out a little bit more often outside the gym, maybe going out to Twin Peaks and getting a few drinks or just chilling, watching the fights, stuff like that. And, Kay is also informing more about Jay, how he's, from Venezuela. He's got a few different businesses. He makes a lot of money, has a lot of connections. All positive stuff, at least at this point in time. And, everything's fine and dandy for the next few weeks. As I get to learn Jay, he's like, look, dude, I like you a lot. I want to be able to help you with your bodybuilding career, so I'll sponsor you. Just tell me how much it is for the show, and I'll like pay for all your stuff. Now, at this point in time, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, he pays for our drinks whenever we go out. I know he's loaded, and he said he's willing to be a good sponsor and pay. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm totally down. Mind you, like, he didn't really give me any cash up front. He was just kind of like, oh, hey, like, let me know how much it costs, and I'll send you the money when I get it. So I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And, at this point, I'm probably like a month out from my show. It's probably like May. And I'd made so much money at Crunch that I was like, you know what? I shouldn't really have to work at Crunch anymore. I can start cruising just because, I was just getting a little frustrated over there. For me at Crunch, I was a little disgruntled because I initially came over there to be a fitness manager because that's what I've been for the longest time. Like, I've been a fitness manager longer than I've been a trainer, honestly. And it just got to the point where they're like, look, you haven't had any sales in a while because why should I if I already have 40 hours worth of clients and I don't want any more clients and I'm making like 5 or 6 grand a month. They're like, oh, you're not hitting your sales goals. You're not hitting your kickoff numbers, which is basically like your fitness assessments you do to get clients. You're not helping us out with phone calls or doing anything like that, right? So I get disgruntled because I'm just like, look, dude, like, I'm a high volume coach. I'm one of those people where, like, I know what I'm doing. I just want to be left alone. You guys aren't really leaving me alone. And it's getting to the point where I'm also just kind of like getting bored and I kind of don't want to be there anymore. Basically, after he says he wants to sponsor me and we're going out regularly for drinks and shit like that, um, my birthday comes up too. He also tells me he wants to give me something as like a bonus for my birthday, as or not a bonus, but I guess like a gift. Meanwhile, he still hasn't paid any of the stuff that he initially said he would pay for. Um, like I said, I get disgruntled. He goes through a lot of stuff personally that kind of leads me to want to work for him. In other words, let's just say his dad passed away. His assistant was stealing from him, personal assistant. And there's a lot of rustling going on with his businesses that required him to kind of relocate and move things around. And he was put in a position where he's kind of just like not really having it. You know what I mean? Um, Being his coach, I'm pretty concerned because he's not working out. He's drinking every night, and he's like, just out partying all the time and just not really taking care of himself or his business or anything like that. So me and Kay kind of get together, especially because, one of Jay's proposals was he's going to open up like a new car detailing shop or a car rental shop. I don't remember which one it was. And he needs a general manager there. And he needs like, or supposedly like me and Kay were supposed to be like co-general managers of this new shop whenever it opened, but it never really came to fruition. And because of the things I was going on with like his dad and his assistant and things like that. So there was one day where I just presented myself and I was like, you know what? I already write out your workouts. I already do your nutrition. I already write up your gear protocol. And just being the person I am, I'm very organized when it comes to like making schedules for myself and my clients. I'm also very good at making budgets for myself and my clients. So I figured, you know what, being a personal assistant isn't that much different. I'm just doing all of the things I'm already doing for one person rather than a bunch of people, and then maybe a little bit of extra shit. So I get with Jay, and I'm one night, and I'm like, hey, so I heard about your personal assistant, or I think he actually told me, and I was like, I'm sorry to hear about that, man, but if you're looking for another assistant, I'd be more than happy to help you. You know, I remember telling him, I'm like, look, if you're Batman, I'll be fuck, what's his name? Not Wayne. Fuck, I can't believe I forgot who the butler's name is of whatchamacallit, Batman. It'll probably come to me later. But anyways, long story short, basically I'm like, okay, oh, Alfred. Like if you're Batman, I'm Alfred, right? So, we talked and he's like, okay, like listen, um, you can be my personal assistant. There just has to be some things that we have to go over. And I'm just kind of in my head, like, okay, like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, when it comes to my businesses, they are legit, don't get me wrong, but how we fund them isn't the most legal way. And this isn't like word for word, I'm just kind of paraphrasing. But I'm like, what do you mean exactly? He's like, look, so my family is, pretty powerful in Venezuela, and we have our ties within the government, and a lot of our money actually comes from Mexico. And so I was like, okay, what does that mean exactly? He's like, look, you can get into a lot of trouble being within this business because, you know, we launder money, simple as that. So he's like, I'm like, oh, okay. So this is a kind of like a little Pablo Escobar shit going on. Okay. He's like, yeah. So basically, if you're going to be my personal assistant, I'm going to have you sign an NDA, also known as a non-disclosure agreement, if you don't know. And there's going to be times where I tell you certain things, and you will not say that to another person at all. Like, not say a fucking word. And then other times, you'll be able to tell things to Kay, um, but obviously, it will be very specific. Like, there's going to be conversations that only you and I have. There's also going to be conversations that, like, you, me, and Kay can also have. But the things I tell you in private or confidence, like, don't say a fucking word or you'll, something will happen. He didn't really say what. I didn't want to know, honestly, after kind of hearing he's from Venezuela and he gets his money from fucking Mexico. But I figured, okay, like, how much is it? Because I was like, all right, well, fuck it. If I'm going to get in trouble, let me at least get paid for it, right? Um, so be it. At this time in our relationship, I just cared a lot about him. He was a cool dude. So I was just like, all right, like, as long as I do what the fuck I'm supposed to do, it should be okay. So he's like, look, I'll pay you $7,000 a month. You'll basically get paid twice a month. You'll get paid every 2 weeks. It'll be about $3,500. And your responsibilities are going to be to just tend to my needs. Not in like a sexual way or anything, but like, make sure his business meetings are set up, make sure his flights are set, book hotels for him, make sure his businesses are good, make sure he's working out regularly and eating properly and like, you know, just kind of optimizing his entire life in that sense, right? So I'm like, yeah, man, sure, let's fucking do it. So, there you go. So yeah, so I'm just like, you know what? Let's fucking go for it. If I'm gonna be paid 7K a month, and literally I just gotta make sure you're good to go, then like that works for me. So, long story short, he's like, look, we'll do it. Just understand you're gonna have to give me time because with everything going on with like my dad, my fucking business partners, my assistant, etc., I have to, spend a little bit of time getting my businesses situated before I go ahead and, make it official. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Eventually it gets to a point where I'm like, all right, you know what? I can't be at Crunch anymore. I fucking hate this place. Um, I want to focus on my bodybuilding show because I'm about 4 weeks out, and I really want to make the best impression and get the best look I could possibly get. Because my last show was when I was like, I don't know, 19 years old. Whereas now I was like 23 at this time doing this show. Well, turned 24. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave Crunch. I have enough money in my bank account and credit cards to be able to last me for a little bit. And George said he would still pay for my sponsorship and also like pay for my birthday, which is like, he had me keep a tally. I think it was somewhere around like, I don't know, like $1,200 at this point. I don't even remember. And yeah, so I leave Crunch. The next 4 weeks leading up to my show, I literally just live my life like a bodybuilder. I'm just like, I wake up, I do my cardio, I go eat, I nap, then I go out and tan, then I pose, then I eat again, then I go train, then I pose, then do more cardio, and then just like find some shit to do, and then pose again at night, and then eat, and then go to sleep, right? And at this time too, since I left Crunch, he's like, okay, like the businesses are coming up. I just need help getting everything situated. I have to relocate all of my businesses to new areas, so I need your help with, finding new locations or venues for that. And I also need your help with getting a house in Southwest Ranches or Pembroke Pines or somewhere in that area, right? So I'm like, okay. And he's like, look, though, um, I'm still working on the payment system. So just kind of like, if you're going to help me understand, like, you're not going to get paid for a little bit. And like I said, being overly confident, I was just like, yeah, he would pay me. I was just kind of like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, don't worry about it. I got you, whatever. So I'm trying to help him do all this shit. And in the meantime, I'm still focusing on my show. And long story short, things just weren't really adding up and we weren't really on the same page. What I mean by that, me and Kay would wake up, we hit up Jay. Yo, what do you want us to do today? Here's the list of things that I need done. Just get it done as best as you can, etc., etc. Every time we have questions, we would text him. He would take hours to respond, or he would not respond at all till the next day, or he would just tell us like, "Yo, stop fucking bothering me. Like, just go figure it out." Like, what's the point of having you guys around if you're gonna constantly have to ask me how to do everything all the time? Meaning, like, even though you guys are trying to assist me. And my thing was this: I'm like, look, okay, me being a personal assistant, you're supposed to give me things to do, and I will do them for you. How I do them shouldn't really matter, as long as I get them done, right? Like that's the whole point of having a personal assistant. But the thing with Jay was he was just very specific about how things needed to be done and what times they needed to be done. But at the same time, he wasn't very good at giving us instruction on how he wanted it done, when he wanted it done, and whenever we had questions, he wasn't very responsive. You know, eventually got to a point where like he had to shut all of his businesses down, like put them on freeze. They weren't like closed or anything like that. They were just kind of like more on a freeze. He's like, look, we need cash. We haven't had any money coming in for a long time. That's why you guys haven't been getting paid. If you want to help me, cool. But if you don't, like, I understand. And at this point in time, like, I'm still okay with my money. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, like, you owe me and Kay about like, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 each. So it's whatever. We'll get the money when we get it, right? He's like, look, I need you guys to help me get cash. Since my businesses are on freeze, we're gonna make two new businesses, so that way we can collect cash quick. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. What do you want? He's like, I want to start a meal prep company. I want to start a clothing company. He's like, I need a logo, or I'm sorry. He was like, I need ideas in terms of like the meal plan, the fucking costs, like I guess terms and conditions, like all the general shit you would need for a business, like within a day. So I'm like, oh shit, okay. So me and Kay get together and we basically come up with a bunch of ideas for a meal prep company, um, and just try to get the ball rolling from there. And from there, basically over the course of the next week or two, I spent all my time literally making a menu. I figure out like what the ingredients are, the portion sizes and grams and ounces, where to buy it, how much it's going to cost, delivery costs, work costs, gas. Like I literally figured out a whole business in terms of starting a meal prep company in about a week. Right. During this entire time, Jay is basically kind of like a little angry with me because there's just either certain things I'm not doing right or certain things I didn't get done on time. Even though trying to calculate how many calories and macros for every specific meal plan to equal the exact same, regardless of the food options, takes a lot of fucking math. Okay. So we just kind of weren't seeing eye to eye in that sense. So it was like he would want this done, and I would try to do it, and I just wouldn't really get it done in the matter of time that he wanted. Or he's like, look, we should be over here, and we're still back here. And it's just because we weren't really communicating, and every time we try to communicate, he would say something like, oh, figure it out, or like, oh, um, I don't need to. What was the phrase he really liked saying? It'll come back to me later. But basically, he would just basically tell me and Kay to fuck off. He's like, "Look, I'm in business meetings all day. I don't have time for this," or like, "Oh, I'll figure it out when I figure it out. You guys are not really very helpful. Um, I don't have to tell you anything. It's my business." Stuff like that. So, it got to a point where it's like, okay, it's been about 2 or 3 months now. We haven't gotten paid. When we tried setting up the payroll system through a bank, something was always up, whether it was like the address on the businesses were wrong or money wasn't coming in or things like that. And, we're also getting yelled at every day for not doing something right or being behind the ball or things like that, while at the same time not having any sort of direction, just trying to figure shit out on our own. And um yeah, it just got to a point where it's like, look, we're trying to get this meal prep company going. He has a chef because he used to have a restaurant. I'm trying to get in contact with the chef so we can set up a taste testing and I can teach this chef how to make everything because I made all the recipes and I know exactly how everything needs to be made. And he's like, look, Jay, by the way, Jay's like, you know what? You haven't done shit for me, you know? Yeah, he was like, basically, you haven't done shit for me. You've been more of a headache than helpful. Um, everything's been taking way too long. Like, our payroll system's messed up, so I haven't been able to pay you, but you keep pestering me about paying you, even though it's been 3 months since we got paid. And, things just also like weren't adding up. Like, you know, his business meetings were always just happen to be in like Port St. Lucie, or not Port St. Lucie, the fucking Everglades. And like, he has to go collect money or collect cash. Um, Also, just learning through Kay and other people, like, you know, obviously we learned earlier, this motherfucker has ties with like Mexicans, probably the cartel, and the fucking Venezuelan government. And he's having to deal with them to try to get money. So we can only assume what's going on there. And yeah, Jay was basically like, you know what? You're worthless. You're not really very helpful. I don't need you anymore. We have everything we need for the meal prep company. We'll do this without you. So fuck off. And basically after that, he kind of like got me out of the group chat. Basically took all my shit and ran with it. And I didn't get paid for any of that time. So it was about 2 or 3 months where I literally had zero income coming in, and I was having to pay for everything with the money that I saved up from Crunch or with my credit cards. So at this point in time, my credit card debt's pretty high. I don't really have much cash left, and I had to get to a point where I'm asking my parents for money to pay for rent. And now this is where the kicker is. So I asked my parents for money for half of the rent because my roommate at the time, he Um, he was recently divorced, has a kid, had to start paying child support, and we basically got together so he could get away from his wife. And, he's bouncing around from job to job, not really having any sort of stable income. And we get to a point where it's like, yo, roommate, where's your half of the money? And he's like, oh, like I get paid around this time, like, I'll pay it when I get paid, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, since we moved in together, he's always been late every month of rent. Like, I'll have my half ready, and then he won't pay his half until halfway through the month. So at this point in time, when Jake kind of cuts me off, we're already like 1 month behind rent, and now approaching 2 months behind rent. And or no, we're already 2 months behind rent. So I asked my parents for their half, and I asked my roommate for his half, and he's like, "Look, dude, um, I don't really have the money to do it right now. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I'm either gonna I'm gonna try to get a loan or I'm gonna try to um I might have to go move in with my mom over in Tampa. So I'm just kind of like, okay, dude, like get a fucking loan. Like I don't want to fucking lose a roommate, lose my house, especially because we already have eviction papers since we didn't pay, 2 months worth of rent already. So we had this conversation. Then literally like not even a day or two later, he's like, oh, hey man, so I can't really get a loan. I guess I'm just gonna move in with my mom back in Tampa. Um, I'll help you find a roommate, but I won't be able to stay here anymore. And I'm just kind of like, dude, like we're already 2 months behind rent. We already have eviction papers. Like, there's no way we're gonna find a roommate in time. And even if we did, I don't have the fucking money to pay the rent, because I haven't been working. And at this point in time, I'm looking for a job, and despite my 22 jobs and life experiences, I still haven't been able to like find something, right? Or at least something that pays decent. So Jay cuts me off. My roommate just kind of ups and leaves. We're already 2 months behind rent, and the eviction papers are there. So I basically just like pack all my shit, get out of the apartment, and move to a storage unit because, I couldn't pay for anything, and I didn't want the police showing up and like raiding the house and kicking me out. So I left. Basically, got evicted, lost my house. So at this point in time, this is probably like what, September, right? June, July, August. Yeah, probably September. Yeah, definitely like August, September. So somewhere around August, September, I think closer to August, because I ended up staying with my uncle for a little bit. And basically, I like have zero money. I lost my house, and I honestly have no idea where I could go. You're probably thinking to yourselves at this point, like, why didn't you just call your parents and like try to figure it out? You don't really know my parents. Um, Not to say that they're bad or that they wouldn't help me. It's more or less like I always think they're way worse in my head than they actually are. And to be honest with you, I was just scared. And I just also didn't want to have that conversation with my parents of like me being stupid and like I could have been helped out sooner if I just kind of like asked for help sooner. You know what I mean? So basically, my parents gave me the half of the rent, and I'm just like sitting here telling them how it's enough. And meanwhile, I'm basically losing my fucking house, not having any money, and having to, you know, live out of my car. Now, I didn't get to that point yet. I'm living out of my car now, but at least at this point, like, I asked my uncle, both of my uncles, I asked my dad, and I even asked, like, my girlfriend at the time, and some other people if I could stay with them. With my dad, the thing with him is, he's just kind of in his own world. So he has him and his girlfriend, and basically his excuse was like, oh, the parking situation's bad here, so I wouldn't be able to have you stay. So I'm just like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Whatever. My other uncle has, I think he has 4 kids, and he also has in laws with him. So there's already 8 people in the household. So he's like, I can try to squeeze you in, but I don't know. And then my other uncle is just him, his wife, and his 2-year-old, 3-year-old son now. And basically, with them, they were kind of hesitant because they hadn't really seen me since I was a kid. His wife has actually like never met me before then. So luckily, they agreed, and I ended up staying with them for the next, I don't know, like 1 or 2 months, maybe 2 months. Um, my thing over there though is like I just felt kind of like an intruder. Like they have a very kind of like well off lifestyle. And I just, me being homeless, I just kind of felt like a bum and like a burden, especially because they're not charging me for anything. They're just letting me stay. And, I kept having to report to them and be like, oh, um, you know, this is where I'm at with my job search because at this time I don't have a job. Um, this is where I'm at with my money and things like that. So it just got to a point where I was just like, look, dude, honestly, it's giving me more of a headache being here because I just don't want to be here than it is like being conducive to me being successful. At least that's the way I saw it at the time. So nothing wrong with my uncle, my aunt. I actually really enjoyed spending time with them and living with them. It's just like I said, for me to like, I guess in my head, work harder and work towards being more successful. I just figured, you know what, like thanks, but no thanks. I'll just live out of my car because I just don't want to have to report to you and constantly have that like weird, awkward feeling of like I should be doing something or like I have to constantly keep you updated on what's going on, which, obviously I'm supposed to. I'm fucking living in their house, you know, rent free and trying to get back up on my feet. It's just, I just didn't really like that feeling. So I just kind of told them again, here, me lying again and fucking, I guess, putting the truth out on the fucking internet. I don't know why, but basically I lied to them. I was like, oh yeah, my girlfriend's gonna let me stay with her and her family, so I'm just gonna dip. 'Cause like I said, it just got to the point where like I would stay at work all day every day. Because at this point in time, I'm a personal trainer over at a gym in Weston, and I would literally stay at that gym until that bitch fucking closed before I had to come home because I just wanted to come home and nobody was awake. So I just, everyone in the household spoke Spanish. They would speak English with me, but I just felt really awkward because I don't really speak Spanish, or at least not yet. And I don't know, it's just feels awkward when like the whole family unit is just kind of like a dynamic thing, and they're in their own, they're in their own little kind of like lifestyle and ways, and you're just kind of there. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt. So I was just kind of like, yeah, I need to get the fuck out of here. Um, so yeah, I moved out. Basically, I want to say probably end of October, first or second week of November of 2023. Um, and yeah, so I've been living out of my car since then. So it was basically episode one of how I became homeless. As I make more videos, you're gonna kind of learn a little bit more about my story and how I've come to this point in time. While at the same time occasionally deviating away to a little bit more less depressing topics and a little bit more uplifting stuff and hopefully educational stuff and maybe even fitness videos. Um, One thing I just remembered, and this is an apology to all of my clients at Crunch. I personally just like I've never really had the balls to like look people in the eye and just tell them like, "Hey, I'm leaving," or like, "Hey, I fucked up, like I need help," or like, "Hey, I'm uh I'm just gonna go." So, I have a very bad habit of lying, hence why I'm making these videos so I kind of get out of that habit. But basically, to all my clients in Crunch when I was there, I did not have rhabdo. Okay, if you don't know what rhabdo is, it's called rhabdomyalgia. It's basically I guess, like a sickness or illness that occurs from overexhaustion. So basically, it's like you get bedridden, maybe you have to go to the hospital, they put you on IVs, and like your muscles are just overly fatigued. So at this point in time, I knew my clients really loved me, and it just kind of hurt me to like break their hearts and tell them like, hey, I fucking hate this place. I don't want to be here anymore. So I just kind of, I'm a very avoidant person, so I was just kind of like, or I guess dismissive. I don't know. We'll find out my attachment, my attachment style later. But basically, I told my clients like, oh, hey, um, I'm not gonna. What did I tell them? I think what I said was I just disappeared. Honestly, I fucking disappeared for a day. I texted all of them like, hey, I'm sick. I'm not coming in. Like, think we can reschedule our sessions. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. But I wasn't really sick. It was my last day. I just announced it. I told Crunch that was my last day, on that day. My clients didn't really know. Well, actually, especially because I left earlier than my initial last day. Like I told the managers, like, hey, I'm leaving somewhere in April, and then on my last week, I left like that Monday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday, because I didn't want to teach the like hit training class that I was scheduled for. So I fucking left that day when my last day was technically supposed to be Friday. So I just texted my clients and whoever else I needed to text. Was like, hey, like I'm sick, I'm not gonna be coming in today. I'm sorry. Um, Whatever. Then the next day I was like, hey, like I'm still sick. I might be out the rest of the week. Um, I found out I have rhabdo, so I'm not going to be able to come in for a little bit. So I set up some new coaches for you to work with in the meantime, right? Which sounds pretty reasonable at the time if you're hearing it from the client's perspective. So, my poor clients fucking got paired up with a new coach and was training with them for like a week or two. And my clients are texting me like, "Hey, like, are you okay? Like, when are you coming back? Blah blah blah." And my dumbass, I fucking blocked all of them. I was just like, "Yep, I don't want to deal with this. On to new and better things." And I just don't want to admit to my mistakes, so I'm just gonna fucking block all of them. So sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do all that. It's just like I said, like I was just feeling very what's the word? I guess self-conscious about telling you guys everything that was going on with me and how I was feeling about things. So I just made up some bullshit lies to kind of like, you know, dismiss what was going on and just kind of like allow me to have more mental space to just move forward with my own personal goals. So I apologize. Um, yeah, that's I think that's a good stopping point for today. Um, in the next video, I don't know. We'll see what I talk about. I might talk about I don't know. We'll figure it out. But this concludes day 80 something of the Homeless Bodybuilder Chronicles. And so I'll format my videos so that way it's in chronological order of like what days I've been homeless. And like I said, I'll hold myself accountable to getting myself in a fucking house and not having to live homeless the rest of my life. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you want to follow along my journey. Leave a comment down below if you found something interesting or learned something or would like to put in your own input to, I guess, give me some sort of life advice to stop being a fuck up. I don't know. I'll read the comments later. But I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next video.